recording the session now. All right, please acknowledge that it is being recorded. Okay, so we left off earlier talking about the rising action, falling action, okay, of the story. So let me just review with all of you the strategies once more. And along the way, if you're not sure, you stop me and ask me again, okay? So remember, when we look at the question paper, we always use the 1, 2, 3 strategy, okay? And the 1, 2, 3 strategy always follows along the idea that you want to look at, number 1, the theme, the keyword, number 2, the guiding questions, and number 3, the pictures that you will select to write your story, okay? Now this picture, in this case, we selected the prefectorial badge as well as the 2 fingers hooked in a pinky swear, all right? That was our picture. And if you recall, in class, we have already hit the theme word and the picture, okay? So let's review. I talked about the 2 S's, right? When we write a story in the exams, we are looking at both speed and safety. We talked about how we need to be managing our time very carefully. And over here, I've added this. Can you please add this into your notes as well? Now, when I talk about speed, I'm saying that you need to spend 40 minutes writing, 5 minutes planning, and 5 minutes checking. That will give you a grand total of 50 minutes, okay? And that is the amount of time that you should spend on your compo. The other 20 minutes is reserved for situational writing. So please don't overspend your time on either of those sections, because that will result in you rushing and giving a substandard piece of writing. So arrange your time properly. Speed is of the essence, right? And when I talk about speed, I mean planning your time in a way that you have enough time for every section. Safety, right? So this one also I did not include in the earlier notes this morning. Now, always choose familiar topics, vocabularies, and themes when you write a story in the exam. The exam is not the time for you to be experimenting. It's not the time for you to be adding something that you're unfamiliar with. Always work with what you are comfortable with, familiar with, can spell, can write, okay? So that's what all this practice is for. We are exposing ourselves to many different kinds of vocabularies and writing methods so that during the exam, we'll be comfortable with many of them, all right? So next, we went through the brainstorming process. We talked about the 5 main parts of the story, which corresponds to the 5 paragraphs, right? So we give the introduction, the background, how we are prefects. We talk about how there is a secret that is entrusted to us by our friend. So the trustworthiness comes in whether we're able to keep that secret. We talk about how the secret is probably going to be against the rules and illegal. And that's why our friend comes to us in secret, right? And then we talk about how the internal conflict in the story is going to be about our struggle between our conscience, which is doing the right thing, and friendship, which is our loyalty or our desire to be trustworthy to our friend. So trustworthiness on one level is being reliable to keep our friend's secret, but on another level is to be honest and a person of integrity. So we don't betray the trust given to us as prefects. Okay, so that's what this story is all about. The kind of turmoil and the kind of confusion that's internal to your character, internal conflict. Okay, so far, everybody all right? Okay, Jivashri, can you please turn on your camera? Thank you. Please don't turn off your camera unless absolutely necessary, because this is how I track that you're paying attention. Okay, right. Then we went into the story mountain, and I mentioned to you all that the story mountain is the minimum, right? That means if you don't do the brainstorming, right, at least have a story mountain that maps out the 5 parts, the 5 paragraphs of your story, so that you know where your story is headed and where to concentrate your effort on. Because if you're not careful, you might end up with a story that's not balanced, in the sense that you spend too much time on one section and not enough time on another. And that's what the story mountain is supposed to guard you against, okay? Then we went into the different ways we can start a story. I talked about flashback versus starting in media res. I talked about starting with a flashback needing a trigger, whereas starting in the middle or starting in media res not requiring a trigger and therefore being a lot easier to write. I recommend starting in media res or starting in the middle. I do not recommend a flashback. That being said, I know that many of you in primary 4, primary 5 were trained in the technique of flashback. So if that's what's familiar to you, please continue with flashback. However, please make sure that you have the right triggers for your flashback, right? So I talked about how, in this case, the flashback trigger is the photograph of your friend and you like holding hands or, in arms together. The other way is you can use the prefect badge as the flashback, okay? Either way, you need to discover this item. And then the discovery of the item will trigger the flashback, right? That's what a trigger is. It triggers the recall of the incidents that happened in the past. At this point in time, do you have any questions? If not, can you please just do a quick wave in the screen so I know that you have no questions? Okay, right? So I've covered this in class. We should be quite confident and quite competent about doing a flashback. So I circled with a red pen all of the adjectives and adverbs. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you to highlight. If you have 2 highlighters, that's great. Use 2 different highlighters to highlight the adverbs and adjectives. If you have only 1 highlighter, then just highlight the adjectives. Leave the adverbs alone. I say again, if you have 2 highlighters, you can highlight adjective 1 color, adverb another color. If you only have 1 highlighter, just highlight the adjective. Leave the adverb alone. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead. I'll use 2 different colors. I will use orange for my adjectives. Okay, then I'll leave my adverbs alone. All right, I won't do 2. So this is an adjective. Sorry about that. Adjective. Okay, adjective. Adjective, 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 adjective. Okay, all adjective, right? Next one, adjective, 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 adverb. Mutely is an adverb. Okay, adjective. All right. So if you will notice, the introduction is usually full of adjectives. Why? Because I'm describing or giving detail about the background and the context of the story. So it makes sense that when I show not tell, I'm using more adjectives and adverbs because this is not where the action happens yet. Actions are verbs. So adverbs follow actions. This is not the point of the action. So a lot more descriptive words like adjectives are used in the introduction and even in a little bit of the rising action. But you'll notice that more and more adverbs will start to happen as I go into the climax or the action-packed scenes of my story. At this point in time, any problems? If not, wave your hands violently to show me that you're okay. Yeah, okay. Any questions again? Yeah, that's right. Give yourself a bit of activity. Any questions? Can you please just stop me, unmute yourself or raise your hand? I can see your icon over here. All of you are right in front of me. So I should be able to notice if you have raised the hand. Okay, now we stopped circling the words right over here because we were kind of in a hurry to finish the story. So let's continue where we left off. Bosom buddies, okay? Can you all still remember what was the other alliterative phrase I taught you besides bosom buddies? Kang Zheng, can you remember? Unmute yourself and tell me what was the other phrase to describe friendship that I used in the classroom. Kang Zheng can remember?
Fast friends.
Yep, very good. So I want you to just put down here fast friends, okay, as an alternative. So if you don't want to use bosom buddies, you'll find that it's a bit difficult to spell or you just don't like the letter B, then you can use the letter F lah, okay? Fast friends, right? Fast friends are close or best friends. And this is an alliterative phrase, meaning 2 alphabets in close and quick succession. The same alphabet is an alliterative phrase, okay? So inseparable, okay? We are inseparable. This is another adjective. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and color in bosom and inseparable. These are adjectives, okay? And then let's move on. Okay, we spotted our gleaming badges. Okay, another adjective here, gleaming badges. Okay, The good times were not to last. Stepping into class, I spotted. Then here, I see this is one of my other rare adverbs. Okay, right? Now, I'm noticing here that I think I can insert a few more adverbs. Okay, so let's say I want to add in an adverb. Let's spot. This verb is run. Okay, so how did we run for the prefectorial board? Would someone like to suggest an adverb here very quickly? How do you run for office? How do you run for head prefect? What's the manner in which you run? Devon, any suggestions? No? Anybody has something that comes to mind immediately that you can immediately offer? If not, then Mr. Pang will answer already. No? Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We had run diligently. Okay, so this could be an adverb that describes how we run. We run in a very hard-working manner, right? We are very diligent in running for the prefectorial board elections, right? And then we emerged. How did we emerge? Emerge is another verb that I can describe. I emerged in a very victorious manner, right? Anybody? Okay, I can emerge triumphantly. We had emerged triumphantly or victoriously, okay, as candidates for head and vice head prefect, because we essentially won the elections, right? So we are triumphant. Triumphant or victorious refers to, or is an adjective for winning. But I don't want adjective, I want adverb. So here I add an ly and it becomes very conveniently an adverb. Okay, triumphantly, emerged triumphantly, right? So I think that's good enough. I already have 4 adverbs in my rising action. I think that's pretty good. So let's move on. So silence and despondency, right? This is an adjective phrase, okay? Puzzled, I sauntered over and poked him in the ribs. To my utmost shock and horror, I saw, okay, so over here, tear stain, devastated, visage, all these are adjectives that describe the face of Alan. Okay, Alan is devastated and he's got tear stains running down his face. Okay, so far very good. Now we come to the climax. Now this is where I'm going to see a lot more adverbs. Okay, frantically. Okay, so the word spilled the beans is also kind of like an adverbial phrase because it tells you the way in which he confessed, which was like, you know, beans being spilled, very messy. Okay, so that's also an adverbial phrase. Then the word concealed, I can even add secretly, right? If I want to emphasize the fact that he hid the answers without showing anybody, I can add the word secretly, which is also another adverb. All right. Wretchedly recounted, okay, another adverb, okay. Notice that when I come to the climax, it's action-packed. So therefore, a lot of adverbs will follow the action, okay. Paralyzed with indecision. This is another adverbial descriptive phrase, right? It describes my internal feelings, okay. The pressure and internal was beyond words. Just then, I glimpsed my gleaming badge. Okay, so gleaming is again an adjective. All right. I remembered the pledge we had made to be good role models. Good role models is a descriptive phrase, but never mind, it's pretty simple. I'm not going to put that in. All right. Okay. Now, notice here that when I quote, I'm going to use green. When I quote a word, when I want to bring up a word that is written on a piece of paper or printed on my badge or on the t-shirt, right? I will always use open and close inverted commas because these quotation marks tell me that I am reading something from a printed source. So it's either printed on the t-shirt or printed on a badge or printed on a page. I will use the quotation marks or the open close inverted commas. Okay, so integrity, trustworthiness. Okay, these are all written sources of my quotation, right? So these are written sources. Okay, now the following action. I'm going into the last part of my story already, finishing off already, okay? We are doing well for time. Okay, we are doing very well for time. I'll be able to finish quite early today. So following action, supporting Alan, I gently guided him. So notice here again, gently is an adverb towards our form teacher. Hoarsely, again, another adverb. So notice I began with a lot of adjectives. I'm ending with a lot of adverbs, right? Adjectives and adverbs, show, not tell. Okay, his eyes darting around in panic. In panic is kind of like an adjectival phrase. I stood with my friend as he haltingly confessed. This is another adverb. Okay, haltingly, that means, not being able to smoothly express himself because of his nervousness and his fear. Okay, then surprisingly, yet another adverb. Okay, notice all my adverbs are coming in. Calmly commended us for our honesty and trustworthiness. Notice here, I keep using the word trustworthy, okay, because I'm trying to remind the examiner that, hey, I know the theme and I've kept to it. All right. Shockingly, yet another adverb, right? So, I'm making it very clear to the examiner that I'm aware of adverbs and I'm using them to effect the descriptive detail in my story. All right. Spurring him to confess and for being a true and trustworthy friend. These are all adjectival words that describe the friendship. The friend is true. The friend is trustworthy. Again, trustworthy, right? I keep using the word trustworthy to be very, very safe, to keep myself aligned to the theme of the story. Now, to end the story, okay? Now, resolution number 1 is flashback, okay? So I'm going to use a flash forward to end the story, right? Okay. So this is resolution number 1, okay, or conclusion number 1. This is the flash forward. So what am I using as a trigger to bring my past self back to the present? It's the beep of the mobile phone. Okay, so something triggers my waking up, and this something must be related to my friend Alan. So who do you think is on the other line? Alan, right? So Alan calls me, and his voice, or rather his call, is what brings me back to the present. Okay. Please continue on the new piece of paper that I gave to you, because I gave the new piece of paper to you for that precise reason. Okay, so you've stapled it all together, right? Continue on with that new piece of paper, right? Because we are going to need to do 2 separate conclusions based on the different techniques we use. That's why I gave you an extra piece of paper. Okay, yes, Keith, please use the new piece of paper. It's not there for show. It's not there for you to decorate. It's there for you to use. Okay, so the shrill beep of my mobile phone. Let's go ahead and circle shrill, because this is an adjectival phrase. So now you notice I'm changing back from adverbs into adjectives again, because I'm back to describing the scene in order to end the story. Okay, jerked me out of my reverie and back to the present. Okay. All right, so that's the end of conclusion 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's identify some of the adjectives and adverbs along the way before we finish off with conclusion 2 and end today's lesson. Okay. Okay. So I'm only focusing on adverbs and adjectives. There are obviously a lot of good verbs and nouns being used as well, but I leave you to look at them. Okay. Today I'm focusing on show not tell, and I'm looking at how adjectives and adverbs help to describe and add detail to the story. Okay. So this is conclusion number 1, using a flashback and a flash forward. So the trigger was the photo and the phone. Both triggers bring me backward and forward in time. Always remember, if you're writing a flashback, you must have both, right? And you must be particularly careful not to forget the second trigger in the last paragraph. Because if you do, your story remains incomplete and therefore your content will suffer, right? If you're writing a flashback, the teacher is expecting a flash forward, right? So always be very careful to flash back to the present with a simple trigger like a mobile phone call or an interruption by your parent or a sound that jerks you out of your reminiscing mood, all right? Something that brings you back to the present, okay? There are several different ways to do it. This is just one of them, okay? The beep of the phone, right? A conversation, you know, a holler from your brother, anything could bring you back to the present. Okay, now I'm gonna just leave this here for a while. I think some of you are still copying it, so I'm just gonna move it up a little bit. Then I'm going to move on to my second conclusion, and then we're gonna end the lesson after this, okay? So this is no, not resolution. What's this? What did I label this as? Yes, resolution. Okay, so resolution 2. Okay, this is in media res, right? So this is the alternative to the flash back, flash forward model. This is much simpler, as you will see. Okay. Okay? And let me explain a little bit about what's going on. I haven't finished the story yet, okay? There is still a moral or a coda to it, but I thought I'd stop here for a bit just to let you all catch up. Anybody wants to venture a moral or coda that would fit the theme of trustworthiness? Anyone? Okay, if not, then I will give you a coda. This is a flexible coda that you can use for any number of values. Okay, you can use it for helpfulness, you can use it for trustworthiness, you can use it for diligence, you can use it for honesty, all of it. Okay, you just fit it in here. Okay, so in this case, I fit in trustworthiness. Okay. Okay, right? So you can say honesty is worth its weight in gold. You can say diligence is worth its weight in gold. You can say responsibility is worth its weight in gold. This is quite flexible. You can park in almost any positive value. But please don't say cheating is worth its weight in gold, or naughtiness is worth its weight in gold, or being a gangster is worth its weight in gold, right? It doesn't work with negative values or negative situations. It works very well with any kind of positive value or virtue. Okay, so this is what is called a virtue. V-I-R-T-U-E. Trustworthiness is a virtue. Honesty is a virtue. Okay, diligence is a virtue. Right? Responsibility is a virtue. Care is a virtue. Okay, respect and all of that. All right, so all of these things you can just fit it in. Right? If you have no moral, you can't think of anything, you blanked out on the day of the exam, you might want to consider this as a possible, just like a stopgap measure. It's a safe kind of support. Yes, Keith, go ahead.
I said it in the chat. What's the meaning to this quote?
Okay, so when something is worth its weight in gold, you know what gold is, right? Gold is a valuable metal, right? You know that gold is a currency. You know that people will give large sums of money for gold. So therefore, when I say something is worth its weight in gold, I'm saying that that thing is very precious. Okay, it is extremely important, valuable, and precious. And in this case, what is valuable and precious? Trustworthiness. And it's also gold happens to also be a very stable metal. It doesn't rust. Okay, you know that all metals rust, right? Even steel, stainless steel also over time will rust. But gold is so stable that it doesn't rust. It remains pristine and beautiful even after hundreds of years. Like if you drop the bar of gold into the ocean, right? After hundreds of years, the bar of gold would still be pristine and shiny. Whereas if you drop the bar of metal, iron, steel into the ocean, after a few years, it would corrode and it would fall apart. Okay, so that is the meaning of the preciousness of gold. Okay, let's get back to this paragraph. Let me just circle a few other words, then we are done. Okay, so I am true to my promise that this is before 1 hour. Okay, this whole thing here, contrary to my expectations, this is a good phrase to talk about, to describe something that goes against what you expect. Okay, so contrary to my expectations, we remain friends. Contrary to my expectations, even though I'd eaten 5 bowls of rice, I still remained as skinny as a bamboo pole, whatever, right? So contrary to my expectations, against what I believed, okay? Grew from strength to strength is another good expression. Okay, this is another good expression. Grew from strength to strength means that your friendship just keeps getting stronger. It doesn't up, down, right? It keeps going up, okay? Strength to strength, not strength, weak, strength, weak, strength, weak, huh? Okay. Then, do you all know what's a peer support leader? No? You know, Sinmin got peer support leader. No? You all know that, right? There are people, last year, nobody was selected to be a peer support leader in your class? Nobody? Okay, basically, there are people that help to inform teachers when students are very stressed or are in trouble about work or, you know, relationships or being bullied or stuff like that. That's what peer support leaders are supposed to do. They are not prefects, right? Because prefects are supposed to enforce discipline, but peer support leaders are supposed to be like more caring and approachable version of a prefect. Okay, so that's what Alan became because he was no longer a vice head prefect. Okay, right. So then student council, forged in the fires of adversity. This is a metaphorical adjective phrase. Okay, metaphor, you know, it's like as if the metal is forged in the fire and then it comes out even stronger. You all see those like people making swords, right? They hammer the sword in the fire, right? They keep hammering it, right? And as they hammer it, the sword gets stronger and stronger until when it's ready, the sword can even cut through other metal, okay? So that's what forged in the fires of adversity means, right? When your friendship goes through a lot of challenges, it becomes even stronger, okay? Then, of course, stronger than steel. So I'm trying to purposely use a lot of these kinds of descriptive phrases. This is like a simile, as strong as steel or stronger than steel. It's a simile. Metaphor is forged in the fires of adversity. So I'm using metaphors and similes to describe my friendship with Alan. Okay, priceless lesson. This is an adjective phrase. Okay, priceless lesson is an adjective phrase. And of course, worth its weight in gold is also an adjectival descriptive phrase. Okay, so this also adjective. Right, done. So maybe I can do a bit of a vote. Let's see a poll. Let me create a quick poll. After I have taught you the 2 different methods, right? So which do you prefer? Okay, I'm going to give you 2 choices. The first choice is Flashback. Okay, and then you will have to answer a question after that. Okay, please tell me if you can see the quiz that I have just shared with you. Okay, just a quick one. Okay, awesome. Thank you. All answered. Excellent. Okay, so basically, this is the result. Okay, so as you all can see, media rest seems to be more popular, but there's still some of you who want to do flashback. By all means, please go ahead. Okay, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do flashback. If you're confident of it and you're good at it, please go ahead. Keith, please sit properly. Thank you. I appreciate that you approach this lesson with the same amount of respect that I approach it, right? Which is with proper posture and proper learning disposition, right? You do not see me sprawl around. You do not see me doing anything out of sorts. Please, I expect the same of you, even though you are home. That does not give you the license to be casual or flippant in your attitude towards learning. Do I make myself clear? All right, good. Now, the rest of us, do we have any questions about this? Okay, if not, right, then that's all I have for today. Please remember to check your chat group for the next assignment over the weekend. There's one more conversation I'd like you to write. Please use starting in media res. For those of you who would like to practice it a little bit, use this as a model. Okay, I will give you a similar writing topic to work on. All right. So if nothing else, if you've got no questions, if you have fully clear and you finish copying, you may exit. Thank you very much for coming. If you got any questions, stay behind and ask me. All right. Bye.